All right, I'm joined by Oakland City Councilmember Treva Reid. She's also running for mayor, so she is incredibly busy, which means I very much appreciate this time to talk Howard Terminal with you. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome, Casey. It's great to be here.
Now, first and foremost, I want to say you have a lot of other important issues to cover. You're doing a lot of different things. I'm a sports guy. I cover the A's. By extension, this is a conversation about Howard Terminal, but I know you're on the record about a lot of other very important things. So if you see us talking Howard Terminal for 20-ish minutes, don't think it's because she's not paying attention to more important issues, right?
This is the topic for this moment.
Exactly. Absolutely. So let's get right into it. I know that it's a very complex issue. I know there's a lot going on. I know information may not be as forthcoming as we like it to be sometimes, but when is the last time that you as a city council member have really been briefed on the latest in this deal?
I'd say our last briefing was July. We took legislative break in August, so we did not meet with city staff to get the briefing that we normally have monthly. That briefing is held with 4 council members each. There are 8 council members, and so 4 of us meet with city staff to ensure that we don't violate the Brown Act, to get updates and understanding of where we are in the process of negotiating with the Oakland A's. Now, we also get updates from the port. We have, port, representatives attend the meeting. We have staff from other departments that join the meeting that are associated with areas of improvement in that entire district.
Last July, you mentioned July, that was when the city council discussed whether or not to put this up to the public as well. And at the time, I think a lot of the consensus was there just wasn't enough information to even put out there to the public. So do you feel like you have any more information at this point?
We have had an opportunity to vote on several areas with this. Last July was certainly a significant step in having the information presented to us. We did a workshop. We had the port attend this workshop. We had the Oakland A's attend this workshop, and we got to hear more about different angles that we were not hearing in our, staff meetings. At that time, we heard enough information to want to proceed in negotiations with the A's. We've also made decisions as it relates to approving the environmental impact report. That final report was certified, but there are a lot of decisions that are still before us. There's a lot of approvals that still need to come forward from the port, from other agencies, and certainly from the city, as we have yet to receive the finance deal to consider, and nor have we completed all of our negotiations on the community benefits and the development agreement. And so there are a number of steps still ahead of us, but we have been progressing with the A's at the table. And I believe that that's what our residents have certainly shared more of, that I've heard. They want to understand what this deal is about. They want to understand more about the community benefits agreement, and if the A's are going to agree to the terms that the city put forth, as well as the jobs agreement and other aspects of seaport mitigation, traffic safety, pedestrian safety, just the logistics of how that entire corridor will operate and benefit those who are there existing and can certainly be impacted. And those that we'd like to see come, if that project moves forward, to have it develop for it to truly be this economic engine that could certainly, with the vision that's proposed, revitalize, our city and bring a measure of development and excitement to revitalize this entire region. And so I'm sure there's a lot of other questions that you're going to ask me around this, so I'll hold back to hear what more you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about, development like that, you have the chance to be the mayor while what would be a multiple billion-dollar development would be taking place on the waterfront. And then by extension, the African American Sports Entertainment Group would be developing the Coliseum site, which you know so much about. So, I mean, how exciting is that to kind of see the future of what could happen if everything works out well?
It is an incredible opportunity when we get to realize any significant development like this that can impact our entire city. This is $1 billion development, Casey, as you shared. It has a vision to transform Oakland. It has a vision to generate billions back to the city with economic impact on how and where we can reinvest into that site and into the city. It's a 35,000 seat ballpark for the A's, but it's also 18 acres of public park and open space along the waterfront. It's 3,000 residential homes with a clear commitment from us to ensure that it invests deeply in affordable housing. It's 1.5 million square feet of commercial office space. It's 270,000 square feet of retail, restaurant, service space for us to imagine what business growth and retention can look like. There are opportunities for infrastructure to be developed there to improve the transit corridor that's there, the connections for vehicles, certainly trucks, for bikes, for pedestrians. It's an extension to the Bay Trail, which people like to talk about. There's 15 million in public art where we might have that opportunity to invest more deeply in local artists and youth artists having an opportunity to help beautify and bring just cultural art into the community in that corridor. There's youth job opportunities that I would like to see, that we could develop a pipeline, not just for the 25,000 construction jobs and the 7,000 ongoing jobs, but that there be intern opportunities that we can begin to re-engage and ignite an excitement about workforce skills and development for our youth to be a part of this project. And then, of course, there's the opportunity to ensure that we increase anti-displacement services and funding for our residents and our business in this area that have long been impacted by gentrification. And so we're not going to do anything to further the gentrification, but really put a halt to it and ensure that for West Oakland, Jack London, Chinatown communities who we've invested a lot of time with our AB Assembly Bill 617 initiative, where I served on that steering committee, that we improve environmental justice, that we address the environmental mitigation from toxic hazards in that area that are impactful. And so as a mayor, I have an opportunity to sit at the table, to influence decisions that are truly going to impact the city if this project moves forward. I had this opportunity to sit at the table when I worked for a company with the Oakland Army base. And so this isn't my first time sitting at the table. I was able to sit with community stakeholders, with business stakeholders, with the port, with the city to talk about how we imagine what the Oakland Army base could be, how we relocate impactful businesses from West Oakland to the Oakland Army base, and how we ensure that we don't further gentrification and impacts on the community that's existing, the legacy homeowners, the legacy renters, as we look to revitalize even that part of the port property. And so that was an exciting time. I led my company into an exclusive negotiating agreement. And so I'm certainly familiar with terms and process and lengthy processes with stakeholders. And that's what we've seen with this project. And so as the mayor, I will honor ensuring that we've got just, that we're convening meaningful, proactive, community equity driven discussions that are transparent, that are open, and that we provide updates. There's a lot of whisper camps that, you know, emerge certainly in our city as we are not proactive with sharing and communicating and updating what's taken place and how we're prioritizing the priority of the people that we are called to serve, while we consider $1 billion project from an organization who some are still wondering if they truly want to be deeply rooted in Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, you listed off a whole bunch of reasons why this thing could be, I don't want to use like home run, but a big success.
Well,
but,
they want to hit a home
you know,
run. The A's do want to hit a home run. And you know what?
Yeah.
I believe that Oaklanders want to hit a home run too. And so there truly could be win-win as we stay at the table and that negotiation proceeds with, you know, a large, you know, billionaire corporation understanding the heart and the value of our community. And we as leaders have that opportunity to ensure that we protect the best interests of our community, of those that we've been called and elected to serve, or certainly serve in staff roles to lead out on decisions that will truly benefit the people who for generations will remain here. Like you and I know you're a sports fan. I grew up, you know, going to the A's game. I love night games.
Yeah.
Got to throw out the first pitch on Juneteenth and Father's Day. And so there are special moments about the A's that many people are committed to. And they want to see that the A's are equally committed for us to come together and realize this vision that's been presented.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you understand the generational value of the sports franchise, which is something you can't quantify. I say that a lot mathematically, but What will it take for you? And is it even possible to get to a yes before the end of this year based on the timeline we're given right now?
Getting to a yes before the end of this year, that's a step. Our next step is September 20th, where we'll be looking at some cost and financial analysis. And you know what? There's not a report there. It's an oral report. So I personally have challenges with reviewing and discussing significant areas like cost and finances in a project like this without having something for the public to see, for us to really review and understand prior to going into that meeting. And so as a next step, I can't imagine that on the 20th, there's going to be a significant decision made, but there will be an opportunity to review and consider more where we're in the project. What will it take for, I believe, a positive vote? From what we've certainly heard clearly from City Council is that we put forth community benefit terms. And those community benefit terms are supported by council members, are supported by the mayor's administration, are supported by staff and all those stakeholders who sat at that group. And that first one is talking about one of the main issues that we're dealing with, Casey. We are in a housing crisis. And we've not had a clear, robust strategy of actually delivering on that strategy. And so every opportunity that we have to be intentional with where and how we invest in housing is going to be critical for us as leaders to making sure that we bring housing stability with $1 billion project and a project that may not be $1 billion, but looking at every opportunity to ensure that public land is truly used to bring into housing options and opportunities for people of all income levels to have that stability. I've grown up without housing stability. I lived 20 to 30 in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom. One of my first homes was a $60 a month subsidized apartment for me to keep a roof over my family's head. And so I bring that sensitivity to wanting to make sure that we really protect that interest. And so this project will require, from our standpoint as city leaders, 35% affordable subsidized housing on site and off site. And so we're looking for that approval that we put forth in a term sheet to be agreed upon by the A's. They've not given us that approval with the measures that we've included in there. Certainly for me, it's not putting our general fund at risk. The A's made a commitment to privately finance the ballpark portion of this. And I want to help them honor their commitment and not investing general fund dollars that we don't have. When I came into city council, we were 150 million in the hole. That was a deficit. And we were saved by ARPA, our American Rescue Protection funds. And so every dollar that we have is already stretched to serve our community with housing, with public safety, with illegal dumping and blight, business, support. I would additionally say no increase to property tax rates at the city or county level. Those are some significant measures, making sure that we mitigate. I mean, we heard back on that environmental indicator report, 600 comments. It's a lot of feedback on areas of mitigation that community members, businesses, advocacy coalitions want to see how we're going to mitigate measures that are impactful for traffic, parking congestion, for rail crossing, for commercial transit, and truck routes, for residential parking needs, for bike, pedestrian safety. Those are important. And another area that's important is a community fund. 150 people weighed in on very extensive ideas and opportunities that they wanted to see invested for the life of this project, for the 66-year lease. And they had some specific things. And we identified through this process, what was identified were 4 funding sources that should be built into whatever it is that is brought before us as a final deal. That's a Port Social Justice Fund. That's a condo transfer fee. That's a city and county infrastructure finance district fund. That what we've heard is that if that's not a part of the funding source, this project could die easily. And then developer payments in lieu of some transportation impact fees. And so those are the things we want to see. The port has a clear community jobs policy. There are anticipated to be 25,000 construction jobs associated with this project, over 7,000 full-time jobs. And those jobs are like music to my ears. We have an unemployment rate in our city that is regionally 3% unemployment. But there are areas of our city, like the area that I serve now as a council member in East Oakland, where we are double and triple the unemployment rate. We had at the Coliseum a jobs fair that 900 people showed up for. And so when you talk about jobs and projects that could bring that measure of job stability with family, living wage, sustaining job, labor jobs that provide great benefits for families to stay rooted here deeply with the A's, that's something that I want to see advanced and secured opportunities for disadvantaged workers through that job policy that will allow those who are returning citizens, those who, like me, relied on public benefit, those who have faced just chronic unemployment, those who are unhoused or formerly unhoused and looking to get back into the workforce and having that stability. Those are important parts for me, certainly right now from this seat as a council member, and certainly as I run to serve as our mayor, that I need to see in that agreement with the finances. I want to know, I've worked in business, I've worked in private sector, I own my own business. And so the finance deal is what matters. That's what we know how and how long this project will deliver and sustain for us as a community and certainly for the A's. So a lot's going on here. It seems sometimes like a complicated project because there's so many different pieces. We talk about city approvals, but there's a general plan amendment right now. We haven't done a general plan in 20 years in our city. So there are some rezoning, aspects that are impactful to this. We still have to see the track maps, the tentative track maps and preliminary development maps from the A's. That's going to come before the council and the city staff for review. So as you're talking about like the end of the year, like there are still some things that need to get done. The Port Commission, they still need to vote. BCDC, Bay Conservation and Development State Land Commission, they still have another level, even though they just came through a huge hurdle. They still have other areas of approval. And the county, we're still waiting to hear back from the county. And so there's just a number of different things outside of what I want to see that have to take place for this deal to be realized and for all of us to hit a home run.
Yeah, for sure. I know that you're going to need to see the actual terms. It's actually a little disconcerting to me to hear that on that 9/20 date, which I've had circled on my calendar for a long time, that they're just giving you an oral briefing instead of the actual numbers. But hopefully then they can get a finalized development agreement, community benefits agreement, and those terms to you so you can share them with your constituents for a couple months and then maybe take a vote on that before the end of the year. And who knows? But yeah, that is a little alarming to me.
It's an oral report, and like I shared, I don't favor oral reports. I mean, sometimes it's necessary, it's needed when we need to get something timely, but I believe that we've had enough time to bring something more back for us to look at, put our hands to, and discuss with the public being able to see more. And I think for me, as a leader, certainly as someone who's running to serve at this highest level of ensuring how we show up and serve our community is truly from a place of integrity and transparency and access. And that's what our residents deserve. We held a community town hall in District 7 because it was important for our community as we're weighing whether or not our community wanted to weigh in on a ballot measure or just to understand what was before them. And so I brought to the table our city staff, our port leader, the Oakland A's executive leadership, and community for us to talk about as a community, what this project means to us. And also, what does it mean for a part of our city who are feeling like there could be a lack of investment and restoration more immediately for where the A's have decided to relocate from with their interest to move to Howard Terminal. And so while East Oakland is not in direct proximity to all the matters that we're talking about with those who could be most impacted as stakeholders and community partners there, we certainly have significant interest in the outcome, the results, and the benefit, and what it means for us, even as we go into these negotiations with African-American sports entertainment group, which we're excited about, and the opportunity for the WNBA on up into the Coliseum right now in the process. But there's still some uncertainty about the A's 50% share of ownership through the county that they are still working to pay off through that bond into 2026. Their lease term ends right now, 2024. And so there's still uncertainty for those who are working there, those who are living around there, for businesses who are impacted in that corridor. They want to see what the economic engine will be to ensure that we revitalize every corridor from the Howard Terminal to Deep East Oakland. And so we've been fortunate that we have seen some investment and interest coming up in that corridor. We got Raising Cane's, which honestly, Raising Cane's, if you've not been there,
there's a long line when that place
opened. It's a long line, but let me tell you, in the history of Raising Cane's, they have had the highest profitability and revenues from Oakland. That is exciting. And there are another global partner, that's what I can share at this time, that's looking to build out that Walmart, a former Walmart site at the Hagenberger area. If we can continually certainly show our residents and the businesses where and how we're looking to increase, vitality in that business core, with business growth, with services, with support for the businesses that are there to hold on during COVID and to truly recover, when 500 plus businesses in the 3 zip codes that I currently serve closed their business license in 2020 alone. And so there's an opportunity and an interest to ensure that a part of the city that has long felt forgotten and lacked equity and investment, that they have representation and a seat at the table. And so when we talk about a community advisory board, you've heard me advocate, perhaps you may not have heard me advocate at a city council meeting and saying, hey, how do we ensure that the voice at large is heard, and that we make sure that West Oakland and Chinatown and Jack London and those surrounding areas have their seat at the table, but that there also could be an interest at large to make sure that what we're developing at the Howard Terminal has the perspective, has the insight, has the understanding of voices that are indirectly, outside of that project, impacted and incredibly interested to see how we will all thrive and benefit from this deep investment from the A's and from federal partners with infrastructure development and with tax increments that we may realize certainly that benefit back into our general fund.
I'm going to take it back real quick. So you mentioned the town hall you held, and I did watch that whole town hall when you held it. But Taj Tashambi was there, and he's no longer with the team. Does that impact your communication with the A's at all? Do you still have an open avenue to speak with them if you need to?
It has not been the same since Taj moved on, and I have not had direct contact with the A's since then. I have reached out to Dave Cobble, the president, and we are hoping to, resume that measure of intentional conversation with me and our office around where we're at with the Coliseum, how things are going. I serve on the Joint Power Authority for the city county. And so there's already that natural relationship that we should maintain communication and understanding and clarity around, hey, where are we at? How are we engaging with the community? What are the steps that we can partner on to ensure that those that I represent now are being heard and are being responded to? And so certainly Taj moving on, I felt the weight of that decision. And certainly if I feel the weight of it, my community feels the weight, where they don't even realize that we have had that type of good access to staying abreast of what's going on within the organization, and that accountability that I really drive for within that organization.
Now, I'm going to ask you a sort of tricky question, but based on your intimate knowledge of the Coliseum, I know you serve on the authority there, and the possibility of putting 3,000 housing units, all the commercial public space, everything we talked about, down on the waterfront, and then the resulting ability for you guys to get something really nice in that spot where the Coliseum currently is. If it was your choice, would you have chosen the Howard Terminal area, or would you have rather just that stuck at the Coliseum?
Now, my truth is that long before that decision was made for Howard Terminal, I was advocating for the Coliseum. and I'm not sure where you were sitting, Casey, at those times where there were different meetings going on in the city, right? The A's were meeting with community stakeholders and community members and neighbors at the Coliseum. We met at Metropolitan Golf Course for those community meetings, and they were having separate meetings at the Howard Terminal. And those were exciting meetings. And as, you know, an East Oaklander, and someone who's deeply rooted, you know, for and from the community, we were hearing and seeing the vision of what the Coliseum could be for the A's, deepening their investment and this incredible transit corridor where we're investing in housing and infrastructure improvements and really coming alongside us at the Coliseum. And there was a conversation that I had at one of our last meetings with the community group that was meeting for the Coliseum. And something just was unsettling for me. And I remember having a conversation with Dave, and I shared, I really believe that this is a critical juncture and crossroads with where we are, with what I'm hearing in these meetings. Something's going to happen soon. Mm-hmm. And you're meeting with two separate groups who are probably equally excited, maybe, about their location being considered. And yet we are not hearing what the opportunities or the opposition might be for either one of those sites. And for full transparency, for whatever decision is made, I truly believe that you've got to bring us all together. Like, let us all come together at one big meeting to hear, you know, just a report out of what we've been hearing at the Coliseum. Show us illustrations, show us slides, show us whatever you want to show us for both locations, for us to sit and say, wow, okay, that's interesting. Hadn't thought of that. This is what we feel. This is what we thought. Hey, this is our vision. This is their vision. So that when a final decision was made, it wouldn't have felt like a hasty, very abrupt decision was made. And at that time, the decision was not even Howard Terminal.
Yeah, I was about to ask you about that.
Within less than a week from that Saturday conversation to, I believe, the next Friday, Dave Cobble announced that the A's were looking to build at the existing Laney College site. And that threw all of us off. And that was challenging for me. That was a challenging point in trusting the communication and the integrity of the organization. Not just that, but it spoke to different things that had already been in the underbelly of what we were seeing and hearing and experiencing that didn't feel that we may be fully heard, or that, you know, the community voice was being considered as these decisions were being made. And then to hear from Laney College leadership that they hadn't even had a full transparent conversation about the use of their land and property before it was announced, it just made me sit back, Casey, and have a lot of things to ponder. And that was before I came into council. And so just know that here I am now in this seat where I have the ability to make a decision, to cast a vote based on the voice of those that I represent and those that I hear citywide as we weigh into this project. But long before I got here, I was at the table for those years leading up and really trying to put a charge of how we show up and engage our community to ensure that we can come together more collectively around whatever decision will be made. Everyone will not agree. That's the truth. But we can have a little bit more understanding when we know what's going on. And we have had term sheets dealt to us over Twitter. And that's disruptive.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was in the July 2021 meeting, I think you said this is not the most effective path forward or something along those lines. And I think you probably were dead on with that assessment, because I feel like the temperature from back then to now is completely different. Are you seeing it that way?
I am. You know, I think we certainly had some points in this where it was like, now, do you really want to stay? Are you going to stay? And if you leave, it's going to be on you, because we're at the table. We're at the table and we want to negotiate. We want to hear. People want to know, what is the $1 billion deal? What's going on? What's involved? Like, it's a business decision. And as business, you know, as a business leader, I want to understand, to weigh it from that perspective as well, not just as an elected official, but as someone who's had to lead, you know, in a $1 billion industry like Ford Motor Company, and being over an entire region in the Midwest. Like, this is what we do to understand how you deliver for the community and certainly for the company. So what is it? And so we're looking, will we get it before December? I don't know. It's an election year. You know, a lot of things get, you know, A lot of times, timeframes shift in an election year, certainly to give opportunity for those who will be coming in, into their new elected role to weigh in. Sometimes decisions are made prior to those who are coming in, but I can't anticipate with what's coming on the 20th of September that we're having significant information presented in a way that we can truly make, another influential decision in this milestone towards a December decision. I know that the A's have long wanted a decision made. I know that the mayor would love to have a decision before she leaves office. I just don't see that where we are with what's being presented and what we've yet to hear. We're coming back into session now. Today, I got my public safety meeting. Yesterday, we voted to extend our meetings during COVID via hybrid virtual. And so we're just coming back in. And so staff will be meeting with us, hopefully in the coming weeks, to give us more of those details where we know what we can share out more publicly or what will be coming before public for further discussion.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I know your time's very valuable, so I'm going to let you go. And yes, before the end of the year, that's going to be tough. I want to see the terms of the $1 billion deal too.
I know you do, Casey.
And I know it's not going to get negotiated in the media, right? So,
well, stay excited, Casey. It depends on who you talk to around town. Some people are, incredibly excited and at all costs want to see the Oakland A's remain as a generational fixture of our community. They've been here for decades. We were all raised up with them here, and certainly having this moment of being faced with another team moving on, that's painful to process, and not wanting to be a part of that type of decision. And yet we also want to make sure that in our roles to steward the best interest of public dollars and just public interest, that we really do make a well thought out, prudent, sound decision on how we can realize this incredible vision that's been brought before us. We need something to bring Oakland into its next level of just renewal and revitalization, as the governor is now releasing like unprecedented even tourism dollars. How do we use this moment to attract more business growth? That's how we grow our economy here. It's growing the economy, businesses coming in and revitalizing and keeping businesses, and seeing communities and businesses of color thriving with what we are presenting moving forward. It's increasing the property taxes without it impacting those who are already paying significant taxes into the city and our tax burden. And so I want to see how Oakland is going to come into its next chapter. And I want to lead us into that next chapter with financial stewardship, and yet with an economic engine that will knock the ball out the park. So let's see how we do this.
There we go. Thank you very much, Treva. I appreciate your time. Good luck on everything. I know it's got to be a real stressful time right now for you. So I really do appreciate you taking a minute to sit down with me.
I'm grateful for this time, and I'm honored to serve us.